Key point. Children have a strong tendency for homophily, which can emphasize between group differences. Expanding the moral circle. We have explored our predisposition to think and behave in terms of us versus them, and we have looked at some of its negative consequences. But the good news about owning a human brain is that it allows you to consider many biases at the same time. This means we are not detrimentally doomed to follow one path. Whatever evolution might have risen into our human nature, instead we can weigh the cost and benefit of pursuing one instinct against many others. We might have a predisposition for in-group favoritism, but we also have the unique capacity for empathy, compassion, and collaboration that appeal to the better angels of our nature. In the words of Abraham Lincoln, groupishness may have motivated some of the darkest moments in human history, but some of our greatest achievements have been rested on intergroup cooperation, such as democracy and civil rights. Researchers have begun to uncover which conditions promote the more inclusive side of our nature, and we now understand in some detail the conditions that can expand the moral circle to include the outgroup as well as the in-group. 5 to 6-year-olds are more likely to share with the outgroup when they are encouraged to talk about the outgroup's thoughts, feelings, and actions. McLaughlin and Over, 2019. 8 to 13-year-olds are more willing to alleviate the distress of an outgroup member if they have reflected on their distress. Circusummer et al. 2015. 5 to 11-year-olds are more likely to discuss intergroup similarities and differences and report more positively towards the outgroup if they have read stories involving friendships between groups. Cameron et al. 2006. 8 to 13-year-olds are more likely to help the outgroup if they have encouraged to think empathetically about them. Slurksmart et al. 2015. 9 to 15-year-olds who had higher levels of intergroup contact have more pro-social attitudes towards the outgroup than children with lower levels of such contact. Crystal et al. 2008. By simply imagining interpersonal contact with an outgroup member, 8 to 10-year-olds had more positive intergroup attitudes and intentions, reducing negative stereotypes of immigrants. Vezel et al. 2015. 4 to 11-year-olds are more likely to overcome their negative attitudes towards an outgroup if they anticipate that they are going to have to cooperate with with the outgroup in the future. Mish et al. 2021. So, empathizing with an outgroup member can soften the division between us and them, which is part of the broader ability to picture the world from another person's point of view, i.e. Theory of Mind, Chapter 3. And the thoughts, desires, and feelings of an outgroup become more real to us when we meet them or merely imagine meeting them through stories that promote intergroup conversations and friendship. Abode et al. 2012. This approach has had most success in reducing prejudice when contact is among groups of equal status, is based on common goals, and is based on cooperation rather than competition. Allport, 1954. The fact that a new in-group can be defined via cooperation towards a common goal relates to the ideas of fairness and respect that we met in chapter 7, and to the evolutionary reasons why we are so groupish in the first place. Even 3-year-old children seem to understand the importance of joint commitment in the cooperative tasks, for example, by continuing to work on it until not only them, but also their partners receive their due reward. Hammam, Patel, 2012. Recall to the Eagles only cooperated with the Rattlers when they were working towards a common goal. Sharif, 1956. Key point: when children in and out group and in group make contact, work collaboratively, and emphasize with each other, prejudice and discrimination can be reduced. What happens when a sense of fairness collides with our bias for the in-group? That is the question Laura Ellenbass and her colleagues set out to answer with 185 African Americans and European Americans aged 5 to 6 and 10 to 11 years old, 2016. These children were shown the story in which school supplies, paper, pens, paper, rubbers were distributed unequally to children of different racial backgrounds. The children were then asked about the wrongfulness of the inequality, allocated new resources to racial in-group and out-group recipients, evaluated alternative allocation strategies, and reasoned about their decisions. The younger children showed in-group favoritism. However, with age, the children increasingly and reasoned about their decisions. The younger children showed in-group favoritism. However, with age, the children increasingly articulated the importance of equal access to school supplies and correcting past disparities. Older children judged and resources inequality negatively, allocated more resources to the disadvantaged group, and positively evaluated the actions of others who did the same, regardless of whether they had seen the racial in-group or out-group as a disadvantage. Thus, by middle childhood, children are balancing mortal and social group concerns, and in this case, they were able to ensure fair access to important resources regardless of racial group membership. Key point: by middle childhood, children can integrate in-group, out-group reasoning with other biases for fairness, equality, and need. So membership of the in-group can change with age and experience, but it is also influenced by wider societal and historical trends. For example, 1 in 7 children born in the USA now have different ethnic racial backgrounds than their parents. Albert et al., 2018. The multi-ethnic racial youth represent the faster growing demographic in the USA. Sismadia and Akin, 2022. Individuals with partners from different ethnic racial groups identify several benefits of having diverse heritage, such as pluralistic worldviews and stronger sense of self, as well as challenges, such as identity tension and communal concerns. Solis et al., 2017. How parents of multi-ethnic racial families socialize their children regarding groups' differences also matter. Children are more likely to benefit from 2 sets of cultural assets when their parents show a willingness to learn about each other's cultures and practices, are reflective about their values and traditions, and protect their children from racial microaggression by advocating for the recognition, inclusion, and appreciation of children with multiple ethnic racial heritage. Selder et al., 2023. Talking point: issues of race, gender, sexuality, politics, and religion are issues of group identity. They have not been hot button topics in the past. They are today, and they probably will continue to be in the future. Figure 8.3. The first step is in understanding why people care about groups so much is to explore where their instinct comes from. From the evidence reviewed in this chapter, we know groupthink begins early on and that it can lead us to prejudice, discrimination, and xenophobia. Yet the research also gives us reason to be optimistic because we can overcome this bias and appeal to more egalitarian side of our nature, where children have been encouraged to make contact with an outgroup, emphasize and work collaboratively, in-group favoritism and outgroup denegregation have been reduced. The fact that we can change attitudes early in development is important, as we know biases and stereotypes are difficult to change in adulthood. In the last 20 years, research has shown that we make all manner of social judgments about others that we may not be aware of, creating disparities in hiring practices, student evaluation, law enforcement, and criminal proceedings, and that merely making adults aware of their implicit biases does not usually change their minds. Greenwald and Lay 2020. Because of the children's greater plasticity, they are more open to change. If we can change the attitudes of the young, then they will grow up to be the more inclusive parents of the future. And this is important to know, that parents are among the most potent sources of influence of children's intergroups attitudes. Figure 8.3, the roots of an in-group favoritism are deep and can bind us to what we have in common. Summary: children think and behave more positively towards the in-group compared to the out-group. Children are sensitive to groups and group membership because being part of the in-group was a key to our species' survival. Children adopt the norms of those around them as an important signal of the in-group membership. Sorting people into groups is a specific example of our tendency to categorize the world in general. Because of self-identity is tried upon with the group identity, in-group favoritism boosts our image and makes us feel better about ourselves. Children have a strong tendency for homophily, which can emphasize between group differences. When children in an out-group and in-group make contact, work collaboratively and emphasize with each other, prejudice and discrimination can be reduced. By middle childhood, children can integrate into in-group, out-group reasoning with other biases for fairness, equality, and need.